Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Fresh Outlook, the White BET Awards, as Chris Rock called them, the Oscars, saw Leo finally getting the gold. A director win back-to-back awards in a sci-fi remake of a 1980s film. Beam up a lot of statuettes. Let's say hello to our guest panel. Mike Vini, Barna Donovan, a communications professor from St. Peter's University. Paul Levinson from my alma mater, Fordham University, where he is a media professor, and joining us live via Skype, Heather McAdams, a filmmaker from Agamemnon Films. How do you say it, Heather?
Agamemnon.
Okay, I still can't say it, but I'll let you say it. I'm going to have you answer the first question because you're up in the box. What was the takeaway moment from Oscar night, would you say?
For me, it was the Joe Biden and Lady Gaga presentation. That was a really powerful moment for me.
It's kind of a good coalition of the arts and politics coming together for a very worthy cause.
Absolutely. And it was giving voice to survivors, which is something that people don't really think about on a daily basis. And it was really beautiful.
Okay, Heather, thanks for that. Mike, I'm going to turn to you, our only black man on the panel, so I'll ask you, what is your take on Chris Rock's skewering of the Oscars all night long? I thought his opening was great, but I think he went a little too far after that. But you tell me what you think.
You know, I love Chris Rock. I really, really do. I think he was under a lot of pressure to do something about the controversy that's been surrounding the Oscars. And from what I understand, his team were really working on his routine, his jokes for weeks. So I think he did the best that he could. And I really gave him a thumbs up for that, for just really doing his best to try to keep it light, keep it funny, and really poke fun at the issue.
Well, I thought it was great because, go ahead, Paul.
Actually, I love Chris Rock, but this wasn't his funniest moment. So I fault him for not being even more provocative and risque. I mean, look, we live in a world of Donald Trump. The cat is out of the bag. Chris Rock used to be incredibly cutting edge like 10, 15, 20 years ago. I actually thought the single funniest moment was when Ali G got up there and bemoaned the fact that Idris' elbow, as he put it, was passed up.
I think what was interesting, Barna, was the fact that Chris Rock said that we don't have overt racism in Hollywood. We have covert racism in Hollywood. We have sorority type racism in Hollywood, where people are selectively excluded and not sure why. These are the most liberal people in America, and still the African American population is underrepresented in the films. What say you, sir?
Right, and this is something that he talked about before. He wrote a long article about a year ago about something like this, where it says that, yeah, all of you guys are out here supporting Obama, but you're not making movies with more African Americans in them, or directing them, or people behind the scenes, or hiring them into the essentially the structure, the studio structure. And so, which I thought that's really the core of the issue: Hollywood and race, rather than the Oscars and race. And as his routines were going on, my overall impression was that we're flogging this horse for almost 3-4 hours until it's over.
I thought was interesting. One point that Chris Rock made was, why are there separate categories for men and women? Every female actor I know does not want to be called an actress. She wants to be called an actor. And like he said, it's not like they're running a race where a man has a physical advantage. Why don't we just have best actor, and that could be a male or a female? What say you, Mike?
I think it's the affirmative action problem with the Oscars. You know, they want it to be, everyone wants it to be perfectly politically correct. You know, how many African Americans do you need nominated to feel okay? And I'm saying this as an African American. So I think it's really important to examine when will it be okay, you know? And I think when it comes to the political correctness thing, that's really the issue here. We're just trying to make everything politically correct, and that's the problem.
Yeah, and I would say, the problem with saying let's do away with the Best Actress award, let's just make it Best Leading Actor, what's going to happen is fewer women, fewer people will be getting nominations. So it's a really complex issue. It seems to me that what we want are more people getting nominations.
Okay. Heather, let me bring you in on the conversation. What do you think about the categories that we have? Do you think there need to be new categories, different categories that will be more inclusive?
I don't think you need to change the categories. I think people lose sight that the Academy isn't the one, they're not the ones doing the hiring. The people in the Academy can do the ones who do the hiring. We need to create more opportunities for women, more opportunities for African Americans, more opportunities for Asians, Latinos. It comes back, it's a bigger issue than that. It is a Hollywood issue. It's one of those things where it's like, why don't we have paid internships? Because guess what? Kids from inner city, they have to have jobs and actually pay their bills. They can't go do an unpaid internship at CAA or whatever big agency there is. We have to create these opportunities so that they can still pay their bills and they still have a window of trying to make it in this business.
Great points. Barna, let me talk to you a little bit about Leonardo DiCaprio. To get off of politics and more onto the arts, he finally won. But you think this isn't the film he really deserved to win for, correct?
Right. If I had to give him an Oscar, let's see if I could go back in time and give him an Oscar before, I liked his performance as Howard Hughes in The Aviator. This was it was an interesting film visually. Also, I was not entirely depressed that did not get the Best Picture Oscar. It was an interesting performance, very visually good-looking film. I don't think it was the Best Picture, and definitely his performance with someone as complex as Howard Hughes was, I thought, superior to what he did here.
And we actually saw a very socially significant film win for Best Picture, which was the Catholic Church scandal film, which was called Spotlight.
Yeah. Well, you know, I'm not completely happy about that. Not that Spotlight isn't a great film and it deserves an enormous amount of credit and awards, but as far as Best Picture is concerned, I like movies that lift us, in some cases, literally off this planet and speak to what the human soul can aspire to in the universe at large. So with that in mind, I actually would have preferred a movie like The Martian. The latest Star Wars movie didn't get even a nomination as Best Picture. For a variety of reasons, the movies that usually tend to do best in the Oscars are these movies that examine microscopically these awful human conditions. And those movies are important. But you know, in the whole history of the Oscars, a science fiction movie has never won Best Picture award. One of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, the third movie, which is a fantasy movie, that did, but that's not really science fiction.
What was the moment of the night for you, would you say, Mike? Was there one standout moment, whether it was Chris Rock's opening monologue or Leo's acceptance speech or Lady Gaga's performance?
Well, I was watching the Oscars in Illinois with some friends, and Lady Gaga's performance was just amazing. And she just seems to be getting better and better as a performer, and the message behind her music, it's just amazing.
Yeah, and Barna, as you know, that song is all about the topic we just talked about in the last segment, which is sexual assault primarily on campus. She is collaborating with a lot of artists, from Tony Bennett and others, so she really is growing as a performer.
Oh, absolutely, and I agree that was really my my moment of the Oscars as well. I mean, she's a fantastic singer. I just like her as a performer, and then what she's doing with the issue and the song and that segment was really an outstanding moment for me as well.
I think it's an interesting way to educate people. Let's bring Heather back into the conversation. Heather, other than the performance by Lady Gaga, did you see a big snub in the Oscars or a much overdue win? What are some of your other takeaways?
Any snubs? You know, I don't really think about it in terms of snubs. I was disappointed that The Big Short didn't win. I thought that was a really imaginative way of storytelling, and it added humor to a really humorless topic. It was really educational about what happened in the housing crisis. So, you know, to have Adam McKay, who comes from such a comedic background, you know, he basically is Will Ferrell's writing partner and producing partner, to do The Big Short, I thought that was a really, you know, imaginative way of telling that story.
Yeah, and my favorite actor in the world was in The Big Short, Logan Crawford. So yeah, I appreciated that as well. It was
Great performance.
Thank you very much. I was snubbed by the Academy,
That's right.
probably because I'm too tall. They wouldn't let me get up there next to the other actors. Paul, Barna, Mike, and Heather, thank you all so much for your time. When we come back, we're going to switch gears again to a serious topic. Freedom of the press is under attack in Turkey. More on that after this.